Welcome. I'm here to talk with Drummond Reed of Avast in our series about the future of business in the digital age, where we look at tech innovations that are highly impactful to the digital business. Drummond, welcome. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Martin. It's great to be back at EIC.
Yeah, long time we haven't seen each other. So Drummond, maybe you give a little bit of a background of yourself first.
Well, I've been working internet identity, digital identity for, I used to say 2 decades. Now it's a quarter century. So I like to think I started in sort of the end of the centralized era and the whole federated era. And then the last 7 years has been decentralized identity. And in particular, things like the decentralized identifier standard, worked on that, verifiable credentials, and now a major focus on trust over IP. On the steering committee there, and we're making good progress.
Okay, great. So when you have to pick one innovation, which one would it be?
So with the trust over IP stack, where we're trying to standardize an interoperable way to do decentralized digital identity, there are a number of technologies that are involved, but I want to focus on the stack because I think it will be a breakthrough in this industry that we've been working on for so long, and so I will characterize it as it is a trust over IP stack that we're working on. We had a session about it earlier today.
What is the trust over IP stack doing then?
So it's a 4-layer stack, very much like it's actually named after the TCP/IP stack, or it's a different way of thinking about a interoperability for decentralized digital trust infrastructure that is very analogous to what the TCP/IP stack did for the internet, right? Prior to TCP/IP, what we had data networks all over, local area networks, a lot of value out of networking, but no global internet. When TCP/IP was standardized, when it finally sort of won the race, the internet happened, and we just explosion of value for business, right? And that was explosion before the web. The web was a second explosion of value when we got to the HTTP protocol and the whole of the web. So the vision for TCP/IP, for trust over IP, is that as you probably heard session after session here at EIC over the last decade or two, we don't have a trust layer for the internet, right? The trust over IP stack is designed to give us that at the same level of interoperability that we have with TCP/IP at the internet layer.
So it's trusting humans and other types of entities?
Yes. Everything that has identity actually fits in the stack. One of the unique things about it, Martin, is that with TCP/IP, it's purely a technology stack. With trust over IP, we call it a dual stack. It's a 4-layer stack, very, very much like, in fact, it's patterned after the TCP/IP stack. But it's a dual stack because it's also 4 layers of governance.
Okay.
And you're the last person in the world I need to talk to you about governance and its role. But we're saying each of the 4 layers needs governance. And that has really resonated with the market.
And which are these 4 layers?
So the base layer we call public utilities, and it is the anchors of trust that you need for broad, what we call decentralized PKI, right? Decentralized public key infrastructure. That doesn't mean they're all blockchains. You can use a blockchain there, but you can also use, decentralized file systems or, Microsoft AD, whatever it is that the members of a digital trust ecosystem will trust for cryptographic anchors. Okay. That's layer 1. Layer 2 is peer-to-peer agents and wallets. Establishing connections and interchanging, using a common protocol. We call that the spanning layer because that's what everyone needs to do. The identifiers of that layer are DIDs. The decentralized identifiers, a person, an organization, any type of connected thing, any kind of logical thing, they can be connected there at layer 2 and have peer-to-peer relationships. Layer 3 is what we call the trust task protocols. Issuing a verifiable credential, presenting one. But then after you establish trust, it's also trusted exchange, for example, payment or workflows that might cross multiple boundaries.
Okay. So it is that at the bottom layer, I establish the key to cryptographic information.
Yes.
Then I connect. Then I say, okay, I'm connected with Drummond or with whoever, and then the business transactions happen at layer 3. So
exactly. And at layer 4, by the way, those are application ecosystems that use the layers below.
Yeah. Okay, and so I think the business value, that question I usually ask is quite obvious. It allows you to better connect, to improve your business processes, to do things between organizations, between entities, between individuals at every layer, from things communicating to organizations working together, to countries and governments working together with citizens.
Absolutely.
In a better way.
The way I like to summarize it, because again, it will unleash value across business processes and ecosystems. So we tend to think about, solve digital identity problems, and it's about authentication, authorization, in the classic IAM problem space. But I think what we're doing, Martin, is we're putting in place the infrastructure necessary for business process automation to now move across businesses, across industries. Okay. So we get whole workflows that now are possible.
Optimizing cost, enabling new business, all that stuff.
Exactly.
So what happens to organizations not following that evolution?
My short answer to that is, what happened to an organization that didn't join the internet? What happened to an organization that didn't, put up a website when consumers started expecting, or a mobile enabled site? I think it will be as necessary for a business to join the internet of trust as these other layers.
It is either you do it and you participate in the digital ecosystem, the digital global ecosystem, or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where are we with that?
We're 2 years into it at the Trust RIP Foundation. We're one of the projects at the Linux Foundation, a sister project to projects like Hyperledger and the Decentralized Identity Foundation. We're just finishing what we call the first layer, or the first generation of sort of the big boulders. The governance architecture is in place. We got a couple of specs there, and we're just finishing the first technology architecture for the 4 layers. We still have, I don't know, I'd say a year or two's worth of work to really finish that to the point where we can start writing interoperability suites against it and testing open source and commercial implementations. So it's not something you could go and implement all of again, but it's coming, and the community is growing.
Great. So we've been talking about sort of the foundation. I would say that the fabric below the digital ecosystem, the digital business. Drummond, thank you very much for giving all these insights into the future of this very essential aspect of business in the digital age. Thank you to all the people listening to our series of videos. Hope to look at others of these as well. Thank you.